Hi again, guys. I am back today with a little book recommendation video, I guess. I had a few on my shelves that I've kind of been wanting to talk about, but without giving each of them like their own kind of review video or book chat video. So this is kind of a collective, a book chat video. Some books I own that maybe you'd be interested in if you haven't already read them. First one is The Devil in the White City by, I always forget, Erik Larson. I always want to say Ian Larson. I'm getting another author that I have here confused with this one. But yeah, Erik Larson. So I really liked this. This is the first Erik Larson book that I have read, and the only one still. But now I want to read them all because it's kind of like fictional nonfiction. Does that make sense? So it's nonfiction. This story really happened, but it reads very much like a novel, just the way he writes it. So it's about basically America's first serial killer, and it was centered around, 1893? Yeah, the 1893 World's Fair. This guy essentially used the popularity of the fair and all the new people coming into town to lure victims. And it's super interesting. If that sounds, it's historical, so if you like learning about history, which I do, I definitely recommend it because it doesn't read like a textbook. It doesn't read like a Wikipedia page about this, situation, which I'm sure there is, but I promise this is way better, and you should read this instead. So I want to kind of read maybe like the first paragraph of each of these, just to kind of give a little picture. There is a prologue in this one that I'm not gonna read from. So the actual like part one, and the first paragraph's really long, like it's almost the whole page. So I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but here we go. The Black City. How easy it was to disappear. 1,000 trains a day entered or left Chicago. Many of these trains brought single young women who had never even seen a city, but now hoped to make one of the biggest and toughest their home. Jane Addams, the urban reformer who founded Chicago's Hull House, wrote, "Never before in civilization have such numbers of young girls been suddenly released from the protection of the home and permitted to walk unattended upon the city streets and to work under alien roofs. The women sought work as typewriters, stenographers, seamstresses, and weavers. The men who hired them were for the most part moral citizens intent on efficiency and profit, but not always." Dun dun dun. So that's that. The next one is Huge by James W. Fuerst. I read this a long time ago, honestly, and I was kind of my memory was kind of failing me when I was thinking, like, what exactly is this about? I remember that there was a kid in it, and he, like, wanted to be a detective, and he was trying to solve a crime. And that's really all I remembered. So I looked it up to refresh my memory and make sure I wasn't imagining things, and I was right. It's a 12-year-old boy who's obsessed with crime novels and, like, true crime and detective stories, and he fancies himself a little detective. And he has this imaginary friend, basically, that's like his muscle that he's always referring to. He's such a fun character, and the whole story, it was so fun. It's not for kids, necessarily. I remember that there were some kind of adult things in it, and he's swearing constantly. Boy after my own heart. So the first paragraph of this one says, "It was one of those lurid August days, all haze and steam, the sun hidden and stewing like a shameful lust. I dropped the kickstand, locked the cruiser to the no parking sign, and wiped the glaze of sweat off my face and neck. Thrash was at my side, I doubled him along, and we shared a quiet look before heading in." So, like, super serious. He's the most serious 12-year-old, like, hard-boiled detective and everything. That's just kind of how it goes from there. It's really fun. Like I said, Huge, he's the main character. He's a really fun character, and like I said, even though I couldn't remember the details of the book, since it's literally been over 10 years since I read it, I just, when you remember the feeling you had after reading a book, I remembered the feeling of like, that was a good book. I really enjoyed that. So if that sounds like something you might like, check this out. So my next one, the actual book that I wanted to talk about, I don't own. It was a library book, but I'm totally going to own it. So Ian McEwan. I really like Ian McEwan. I read Atonement when I was in high school and really enjoyed it. Oh, I've seen reviews and stuff where some people don't care for his writing because they think it's sleepy and like can make you bored or whatever. Now, I will say his writing is the type of writing like I kind of have to be in the mood for it, but once I'm in the mood for it, I'm down. I also read Saturday. I read this last year, and I did enjoy this. There were parts of this novel where I can't even describe it. For me, it's so descriptive that I felt the emotions. I was almost put in like a trance. Not a trance, but like he was describing the scene with the main character in bed at 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up, hearing something, going to his window and kind of observing. He lives in the city and observing the half awake world around him. And I had this feeling in my chest of just like peacefulness and like just being very relaxed and chill. Like I felt like I was this character. And so that alone made me really love this book. I can see where people think like it could be boring because he is very descriptive. And this whole book, like the first half to 3/4, I was enjoying it. I was like, okay, I'm down, but like what's gonna happen? Like what's happening here? Like what's the thing that's gonna happen? I don't understand. And then it happened and I was like, holy shit. Like that was aggressive. But the book that I got from the library was his newer one, Nutshell. And oh my god, I love this book. Like I don't know why I didn't go buy it immediately. It's told from the perspective of a baby in the womb, and without getting too spoilery, because I think on the back cover it says this is part of the synopsis, but the baby in the womb can hear everything going on around him, and he can hear his mother like having an affair and potentially wanting to kill his father. So that's kind of the setup, and I was like, well, that sounds interesting. So I picked it up, and oh my god, this baby's voice is just the best. Like, I love it. It's such, like, an adult. Like, obviously, a baby in the womb can't, like, can hear things, but they can't, like, comprehend what the words are and what they mean. But this baby is, like, this little intellectual genius. And I just thought it was so fun and so funny in parts and so interesting, of course. I really enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. It's definitely more of like a literary fiction. So he's not for everybody, but if you can get down with that sometimes and you have never read Ian McEwan, I recommend giving him a shot. So the first paragraph of this is also quite long, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but here we go. Some hours before dawn, Henry Perron, a neurosurgeon, wakes to find himself already in motion, pushing back the covers from a sitting position, and then rising to his feet. It's not clear to him when exactly he became conscious, nor does it seem relevant. He's never done such a thing before, but he isn't alarmed or even faintly surprised, for the movement is easy and pleasurable in his limbs, and his back and legs feel unusually strong. He stands there, naked by the bed. He always sleeps naked. Feeling his full height, aware of his wife's patient breathing and of the wintry bedroom air on his skin. That, too, is a pleasurable sensation. His bedside clock shows 3:40. He has no idea what he's doing out of bed. He has no need to relieve himself, nor is he disturbed by a dream or some element of the day before, or even by the state of the world. It's as if, standing there in the darkness, he's materialized out of nothing, fully formed, unencumbered. So you can see his writing style, and like I said, I get that it's not going to be for everybody, but I dig it. So the last one is a series that I thoroughly love, but I only own the first book. I really need to get the rest. I can't even remember. I think there's 5 or 6. Maybe even more. But I love it. And that is the Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger. Book 1 being Soulless. So the back says, oh my God. Alexia Terabody is laboring under a great many social tribulations. First, she has no soul. Second, she's a spinster whose father is both Italian and dead. Third, she was rudely attacked by a vampire, breaking all standards of social etiquette. Where to go from there? From bad to worse, apparently, for Alexia accidentally kills the vampire, and then the appalling Lord McEwan, loud, messy, gorgeous, and werewolf, is sent by Queen Victoria to investigate. With unexpected vampires appearing and expected vampires disappearing, everyone seems to believe Alexia is responsible. Can she figure out what is actually happening to London's high society? Will her soulless ability to negate supernatural powers prove useful or just plain embarrassing? Finally, who is the real enemy, and do they have treacle tart? So I love Gail Carriger's writing, and I think I'm saying that correctly, but it's so fun. Like, so fun. It's all written in this kind of very, like, Victorian proper lady voice, and that is Alexia Terabody. So the first paragraph here is much shorter, but it's so fun. Chapter 1, in which parasols prove useful. Miss Alexia Terabody was not enjoying her evening. Private balls were never more than middling amusement for spinsters, and Miss Terabody was not the kind of spinster who could garner even that much pleasure from the event. To put the pudding in the puff, she had retreated to the library, her favorite sanctuary in any house, only to happen upon an unexpected vampire. She glared at the vampire. And yeah, it's just super fun. The whole series, I really loved it. This main character is sassafras and just doesn't give any F's about what people think about her. She is, as she says, a spinster. So, you know, I don't even think she's 30, but unmarried. And it's so scandalous. And her family is trying to marry her off all the time. There's romance that happens, lots of adventure. She has these powers. Other people have powers. It's just fun. I just really like it. I really like the writing style. I like this voice. I just really enjoyed it. So if you're down for some vampires and some werewolves and some London high society, then check this series out for sure. So that's all I have for now. Like I said, I just kind of felt like talking about some books, and I didn't really necessarily have a full-on thing for any of them, so I thought I would just combine a few. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and maybe 1 or 2 of them piqued your interest. I will put them down in the description box, so you don't have to like try to pause or something if you did find one potentially interesting. So yeah, and if you do read them based upon this video or my little, I don't want to say recommendation because that's a lot of pressure, but my recommendation, let me know how you liked it, what you thought about it. Thanks again, guys. That is all for now.